If you want to achieve anything amazing in your life, I can tell you right now, you've got to break your bad habits. If you want to achieve something incredible, step number one is to understand that the way that you break your bad habits is by letting them atrophy. So you don't spend a lot of time thinking about the bad habit and how we're going to break it. You have to find something new that you're going to put your time and attention into. Now, there is a bit of both though. So it's going to go like this. Step number one, you're going to pattern interrupt. You go to do that negative thing, you call it out immediately, you stop yourself in the middle of it. If you, let's say that you want to get in shape and your bad habit is midnight snacking and you're so used to doing it that you sleepwalk out of bed, you open that fridge and you start cramming things into your face and you get 4 bites into stuffing your mouth. Most people go, up, it's already shot, it's already wasted, it's done, I might as well finish the thing. Not anymore. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. At the moment that you realize you're doing the thing that you said that you weren't going to do, you're going to pattern interrupt. I don't do midnight snacking. Spit out what you have left, throw away what's in your hand, close the refrigerator door, swish your mouth out, spit back in the sink, brush your teeth, do whatever you have to do to remind yourself that in fact you don't do that thing anymore.
Need motivation? Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I struggled to stay afloat. I quit my business partner, and the thing that kept me going was studying the stories of famous entrepreneurs and seeing how they struggled and seeing what they had to overcome and listening to their wisdom, motivation, gave me the courage, the strength, the belief to go one more day and see my business through. And in all honesty, I still need the inspiration, wisdom, motivation today for my business too. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Tom Bilyeu, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
The new thing is you've got to have a new habit develop. To develop a habit, you've got to identify something that you want. The whole point to building a habit is that it's going to get you somewhere that you want to go. If you don't want to go somewhere badly enough, you will not have the energy that you need to see it through. When you go to the fridge and it tastes so good, when you're eating, the thought of having six-pack abs, or the thought of holding your kid as they grow up, the thought of being able to walk your daughter down the aisle, whatever it is that's motivating you to want to get in shape, in that moment, it's got to show up and it's got to show up big. So the way that we break the bad habits, the way that we let them atrophy is we get so excited about this new thing that we're putting all of our time and attention into that. Suddenly, that other thing begins to fall away because it is the enemy of what we want. And we actually want this thing. That's why you can't pick bullshit. You've got to pick something that you actually care about. This has got to be something that you really want. Now, if your secret question is, Tom, how do I build a habit when I don't know what I want? Then the answer is very different. Then the answer is you have to find something that you want and build desire around it.
Rule number 2 is uncover your purpose.
Inside of you right now, based on the things that you've encountered in your life, there are areas of interest. That's it. You're not going to go inside and discover that you have this hidden passion or purpose lying within you. What you're going to realize is that you have areas of interest. You're going to engage with those areas of interest. Those areas of interest, then why they're turned into something that you're legitimately fascinated by. It has completely captured your attention, or it won't. If it doesn't, you set it aside, you move on to the next thing. Engage with it until you find the one that you're really fascinated by. Then you're going to go into the process of gaining mastery. And in the process of actually getting so good that they can't ignore you, in that process, it's either going to develop into a passion, something where you're actually good at. You've got the whole Greek notion of techne, where something that you've worked your ass off to acquire the skills has used to other people. That, my friends, is when you fall in love with something, when it really becomes this burning passion. It is something you've been fanning the flames the whole way. It is not something you're born with. It is not something that happens by accident. And in that passion, you're going to decide at some point, is this sort of a private, quiet passion that I have? Like, I have a passion for video games. I love them. You don't have to remind me to play them, but they are not my purpose. So engaging with that, it's very clear to me. I love it. I enjoy it. It's very fun. But my real purpose in life, and I'll even stick with video games for a second, is to teach other people how to leverage video games to build a mindset. Okay? And that focus on helping other people build a mindset to escape the matrix, to see what happens to the world when hopefully millions, hundreds of millions more people now have an empowering mindset than would have had they not encountered me and my content. That is my purpose. But that was a decision amongst many things that I really enjoy, have a deep passion for, want to engage with, am horrified that I don't get to spend more time doing those things. There are a bevy of them for me. I have a deep passion for reading. I could just sit and read about neuroscience all day, and I would be a very happy camper. But at the end of the day, everything comes back to the thing I have decided is my purpose. And that's to pull people out of the matrix. And for a while, I had decided that my purpose was to end metabolic disease. And so it really is like, you make that decision and you can change from one to the other if you want. I'm super glad that quest is still going. I will continue to contribute to that cause through the content. But the thing that I will say is my blinding driving purpose that I've decided to put at the center of my life is pulling people out of the matrix. So recognizing that it's a decision is very, very key.
Rule number 3 is learn to prioritize.
I so often see people make the same mistake that I suffered from for years and still to this day must stop myself from doing. And that is doing the easy things first. Doing the fun things first. The right order to do things is order of importance. What's the lead domino, as Tim Ferriss would say? You know what your goal is. You know where you're trying to go. You know what you're trying to get to. What's the order in which you can execute on your task list that's going to make everything easier? If I do this first thing first, everything after this is going to be a little bit easier because this contributes to the most things in the downline. So I'll give you an example in business. If ever you have 2 tasks before you that are of equal importance and one of those tasks is hiring is always the lead domino because now you have doubled the amount of things that can get done because before it was just you. If you hire, now there's you and this new person. But all the time, I see people avoid doing the hiring because it's a pain in the ass. It is a long, difficult process. It requires you to do a lot of boring shit. But the reality is, if you keep putting it off, it never happens. And you end up doing everything yourself forever because you failed to recognize that hiring is a lead domino. From there, everything else in your life gets easier. So yes, you have to do the hard thing up front. And I struggled with this, with hiring. I came up with this rule because as Nietzsche says, I don't know if he said this exact words because this might be somebody else's phrase, but certainly this idea is well in his world, that every theory is autobiographical. Every theory is autobiographical. So if ever you hear somebody say, everybody's an asshole, what do you know about them? They're an asshole. So when I say that, hey, if you struggle with getting out of bed, it's because, hey, you're doing the easy things first. It's because these are the things that I've struggled with in my life. So no judgment, but it is not useful. It is not easy. It is not going to serve you. You want to make sure that you write things down. So write them down before you get to that point. So I keep an important things list. So just doing things willy-nilly, one of the biggest habits I had to break. So I started writing it down. I put them in order and I forced myself, bad habit. Oh, these things are equally important. No, they're not. You have to force yourself to force rank them. So break my bad habit. No, they're not. I'm the kind of person that can put things in sequential order. There is only one number 1. There is only one number 2. There is only one number 3, so on and so forth. Some of this stuff comes down to you just do or don't do it. It's that simple. As Yoda would say, there is no try. Do or do not. So we're not going to allow ourselves that excuse. We're going to put things in order. The number 1 thing is the lead domino that's going to knock everything else out. And then I'm going to be disciplined enough to actually execute in that order. And because I'm so easily distracted, I'm not going to allow myself to be distracted. And because I know how easy it is for me to get off task, I'm going to practice coming back to the task, back to the task, back to the task through meditation. So I'm going to do that at least 5 days a week. And I'm going to bring myself back to the breath, so that I get very good at coming back to the breath, which makes me very good at getting back on track.
Rule number 4 is build skills.
Let me tell you right now that there are few things more important to your success than reading. Now, when I say reading, I mean reading, watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts. And by the way, when I also say reading, I almost never, and I'm talking less than 2% of the things that I read in my life are actually read by running my eyes across words on a page. I do almost everything in an auditory fashion. So I'm doing audiobooks on Audible, using Speechify to read PDFs, all of that. You can even now get Speechify to read web pages for you. So I find that it's far easier for me to get in a lot of time reading. I read about 2 hours a day on average, 365 days a year. And the way that I'm able to do that is I'm reading in all of my transitional moments. If I'm brushing my teeth, if I'm moving around the house, if I'm lifting weights, working out, whatever, I am reading the entire time. Again, reading YouTube videos, podcasts, documents, whatever. So it's critically important to do all of that because the whole point of the way the human psyche and brain is designed is for us to leverage culture in order to develop ourselves. So if you look at every other species, they all have to make a choice between hardwiring everything so that you're doing everything instinctually or learning from your parents, from the culture around you. As you go up the food chain, the more flexible the cognition is of the animal, the more likely they are to be thriving. Obviously, humans are the ultimate apex predator, is a cool way to think about it from my perspective. But certainly we are the most successful species. I think even certainly by biomass, I don't know if it's by number, but definitely by biomass, humans are the most successful creature on planet Earth. We outperform ants and other insects, which may have more numbers than us, but certainly we reign supreme in a lot of different ways. And the reason is that we are the most able to flexibly organize ourselves. So you can get ants that can organize themselves or bees that can organize themselves in huge groups, but they can't do it flexibly. So we can come together and do this. There are multiple people in the room right now as we're filming this that do different aspects of this. Certainly the company, even more so, cities, states, countries. This is all people organizing themselves, but we can come together for a show. We can come together for government. The number of people that would be required to publish a book, the people that are cutting the trees down, developing the paper, developing the ink or an e-reader, the number of people that would have to come together to create the physical item, the software, all of that. So humans can come together in very flexible ways. They can be in multiple groups throughout a single day in their life. So the whole point, the very thing that makes the human species that successful is our ability to learn from a cultural standpoint. Now, the ultimate way to do that is to find some medium where we can transpose knowledge across time and space. And books were that first revolution. Well, I guess first there was story. So what you could say orally, not nearly as effective as being able to put things down in print. So you've got the Gutenberg revolution as the printing press comes online. Then you've got the next major one, which is the internet. And there will, of course, be more beyond that. AI is massive. I think Web3 is going to be massive. So there are these technological moments that allow this information to go far and wide. And right now, if you really want to get information in rapidly, you're going to be reading books, watching YouTube, listening to podcasts. It is massive. So the whole point is to be able to transform your potential into skill set. And so I want everybody to understand why this is so important. You don't read a book to check a box. You don't read a book to impress your parents. You don't buy a book to have it sitting on your shelf to impress people. You read a book to get good at something, to get so good that people can't stop you. I really want people to understand this. I'm going to crawl through the screen. Skills have utility. They let you do things that other people can't do. They let you beat things. They let you outcompete. They let you grow. They let you push yourself. They let you get to the point where you cannot be stopped. No matter how much people might hate you, you can get so good at something that even if they want you to fail, even if they're willing to go after you and systematically try to destroy your ability to succeed, they can't, because you can outperform. As the legend may he rest in peace. Kobe Bryant said, booze, B-O-O-S, booze don't block dunks. Booze don't block dunks. Kobe practiced so much, so relentlessly, so unceasingly, so much more than everyone else that he was able to compound his natural gifts and turn himself into an unstoppable scoring machine. Think about this. The greatest scouts in the world were paid a lot of money to scour the world, the entire world, to find the best players on the planet. And then those best players on the planet were given the best coaches on the planet, paid a ton of money with the sole intention of stopping Kobe Bryant from scoring on the basketball court. And yet, despite all of that, he scored 81 points in a single game. That's why I read. Because you can get so good at something, given the way that the human mind is structured, you will learn from that. Those things that you learn will become capabilities. Those capabilities will allow you to do things that other people can't do. And whether it's build a company, be a better parent, be a better teacher, whatever it is that you're trying to do, you can get extraordinarily good at that thing.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is stay dedicated.
What tools do you use to keep yourself dedicated and focused on your main priority on a daily basis? All right, so much of what I do and how I'm able to accomplish the things that I'm able to accomplish is because I've taken the time to actually build the desire, to want the thing that I'm chasing. Now, a big part of that is assigning meaning and purpose to your goals. Your goals should not be random. They should not be designed to make you rich. Even if that's a second or third order consequence, great. But the primary goal should be something that gives you meaning and purpose. Now, when you have meaning and purpose, you will be willing to fight through the lame, the boring, the difficult, okay? I've said many times, boredom kills more dreams than fear, than failure. It's you get in there, and to get good enough to do the thing that you want to do, it's really boring. You have to do a lot of stuff that you do not want to do over and over and over. And so the only way for you to have the stamina to see that through is to really want that thing that you're pursuing. Now, if you really want that thing that you're pursuing and you've tied meaning and purpose. So back at Quest, it's real boring being under the equipment trying to fix it. But I was there fighting for my mom and my sister. I wanted to end metabolic disease. I wanted to make sure that they lived long enough that I could enjoy their company for decades and decades and decades to come. But to do that, the price for that, if you will, was I had to create food that they could choose based on taste, and it happened to be good for them. At Impact Theory, I am trying to make sure that nobody gets to the age of 15 without encountering a growth mindset through story at scale. And so all the boring things dealing with finance and contracts and all of that stuff, I do it because I really believe in the people that I'm trying to help. And I have deeply personal connections with people that I've encountered in my life that because they didn't encounter a growth mindset in those years, they have struggled needlessly in their lives. And so that really matters to me. So when it gets hard, when I get bored, I can stay focused because I really have this deep spiritual, quite frankly, connection with what I'm trying to do. It isn't about making money. It's not about getting famous. It's about helping people that I love and care about. And so when you have that, you're going to be able to keep yourself focused and on your main priority. And then if you actually believe that you can accomplish it, that helps. And so you need to
believe that you can get good enough. You don't have to believe you already are good enough, but you need to believe that you can get good enough in order to achieve this.
Rule number 6 is make learning stick.
I know a lot of people out there, if you're new to the building your knowledge game, one of the things you're struggling with is reading a lot, but not making progress. So one of a couple things could be true. First of all, if you're reading things that don't matter to you, then odds are that it's not sticking. And so you want to make sure that you're reading in topics where you have a goal associated with that topic. So reading that thing really matters to you. That is one of the most important things you can do, is get a hyper amount of clarity around what your goals are, so you know exactly what books you need to be reading in order to bolster your skill set so that you can move forward. Most people lack the clarity, and because they lack the clarity, they're not excited about the things that they're reading. And when you're not excited about the information that you're intaking, then forget it. It's never going to stick. The next thing is, if you're not progressing, I promise a big part of this is that you're not deploying what you learn. Most people are afraid of embarrassing themselves. Stop immediately. Stop worrying about embarrassing yourself. It doesn't matter. What matters is, on a long enough timeline, you can be anyone at anything if you're willing to go and f up. But most people are so afraid to make mistakes. They're so afraid of looking stupid that they're paralyzed. They're indecisive. They won't move. I make mistakes all the time, and it's embarrassing, and it still sucks. It's not fun. But what I know is that I will get better, and people may laugh at me in the short term, but they all give up. They all give up. Everyone stops. Everyone quits. Everyone quits. Whenever I encounter somebody and they are wasting time making fun of me, the one thing I know, that is going to quit. Because if you've got energy to waste time making fun of somebody, your priorities are so foobar, you are trying to self-soothe yourself from feeling like an idiot by making fun of me. So I don't waste time on what somebody like that thinks, because I know that skills have utility. If I can I have this goal, I have massive amounts of clarity about what my goal is. I'm reading this thing, not because I'm going to check a box, but because I'm going to turn potential into usable skill set, which is going to let me do something, which allows me to outperform other people, but it requires that I deploy it. It requires that I use the things that I'm learning so that I can make them concrete in my own mind, so that they become a skill rather than an idea. Don't collect ideas, collect skills. Push yourself, figure out how you deploy all this stuff. How do I actually use this in my real life? What is it good for? If it's not good for anything, you're not going to have the energy to keep learning about it, and you're not going to make the progress that you want. So make sure, I got my goal. I care about this thing. I'm reading this not to check a box. I'm reading this to get good at something, and then I'm deploying it to make sure that it sticks so that I'm making progress, and I don't care if in the moment I make a mistake. I don't care if in the moment I fail. I don't care if in the moment other people think I'm ridiculous. I don't care if they think I'm stupid, because I am acquiring knowledge, and knowledge stacks. Knowledge stacks. You get good at this thing, it allows you to understand this thing, which allows you to understand that thing, which allows you to understand that thing, and each one of those things is minor unto itself. But just like a Lego piece by itself is not very interesting, but you can build virtually anything you want with Legos. But you have to be willing to take the time to put them together and have people look at the incomplete thing and say that doesn't make sense, I don't see it, I don't understand what that is, that's going to take too long, why are you doing that? Legos are stupid. But when Legos are knowledge, it will change your life. But you've got to be willing to deploy it. So don't waste time lamenting your stupidity, your frustration at being slower than other people. It just is what it is. Focus all of your time and energy. I have a goal. That goal makes demands. Those demands require that I get better at something that I'm not currently good at. And I'm going to read about it and then use it, because it is only in the using that I will make progress. So if you do that, if you follow that formula, learn in the morning, use in the afternoon, not research for 6 months and then try, learn in the morning, use in the afternoon, or learn during breakfast and use immediately after breakfast. The faster you can begin using the things that you're learning, the faster you will make progress. And remember, progress is iterative. It's not overnight. You go from nowhere to somewhere. You go from one step to the next step to the next step, 1 foot in front of the other, and you make these tiny little incremental bits of progress with every new thing that you deploy after learning. But if you don't deploy it, if you don't use it, one, it's not even going to stick, because a lot of these ideas are just going to go in one ear and out the other. You're really only going to retain what hits you emotionally and what you use. And if you want it to hit you emotionally, there better be a goal driving you to read that thing. When you read something, I remember one time I was on an airplane. This was the craziest shit ever. I was reading the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I'm going through the book, and he's talking about how, hey, there's a secret to this book, and I'm going to give you that secret to the book. And I'm, oh my God, Think and Grow Rich. I want to grow rich. This is amazing. I'm broke at the time. So I'm reading and reading and reading. And every page he's like, I'm telling you the secret. I'm telling you the secret. I'm telling you the secret. And I'm like, what? And about, I don't know, page 52 in, he's like, I've told you the secret to this book on every single page without fail. And if you don't yet know what it is, you're in trouble. And I was like, what has he said on every page? And I was on an airplane. And I remember it finally dawned on me. The only thing that he had said on every single page was, if you believe you can, you can. And if you believe you can't, you can't. And I was like, holy shit. I got goosebumps all over my body. I remember I looked up and looked around the plane because it transformed me as a human being. You can draw a line in the sand, me before realizing that piece of information, me after realizing that piece of information. And it rocked me so hard, some weird part of my subconscious was like, surely other people just felt that. And I looked around to see if anybody else was feeling what I was feeling. Of course they weren't, because I was the only one reading the book. But that's how hard it hit me. And when you have an emotional reaction on something like that, you remember it, but you've got to want that information so badly. I was so desperate at that time to get rich that I was like, oh my God, I need to understand what's going on in this book. I was desperate for that information. And when it hit me, when I learned the thing that book was trying to teach me, it rocked me to the degree that I remember to this day where I was sitting, what it felt like when I realized that thing. And I will never forget the lesson. If you believe you can, you can. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. It's just facts. So understand that. You have to have a goal. There has to be a reason in order for that thing that you're learning to hit you emotionally. And then you're way more likely to remember it. Deploy it with immediacy and aggression. Don't be afraid to fail or look stupid, because no matter how dumb you look in the moment, knowledge stacks. And on a long enough timeline, you can beat anyone at anything. It isn't literally true, but it's so directionally correct, you should live your life as if.
Rule number 7 is set specific goals.
The ability to assess accurately whether or not you're actually moving towards your goals. So everything starts with this hyper-specific goal, and this is why you can't in any way, shape, or form be nebulous about what it is you want to do. And I think that a lot of people are super vague about what their goals are, and the easiest way for me to explain it is to say most people have the equivalent of a goal in their mind of something like this. What the words they actually use, this is the single most common: I want to help people. Okay, great, that's really noble, and I love that, and I love that that's something that I hear all the time, but the problem is that's like saying I want to win a gold medal in the Olympics. Okay, well, summer or winter? Summer? Great. Tennis or swimming? Swimming? Great. Which event? Because until you get to the exact event that you want, you don't know what to train, you don't know what skills you need, you don't know what muscle groups you need to be training, you don't have the goal in mind, and if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So you need to create some environment where you know, here are the things that I'm going to measure that I need to get good at in order to win that gold medal. So if you want to win the gold medal, then you need to understand what kind of time do you have to swim in that event in order to qualify historically for a gold medal. That's a really good place to start. And then looking at the contemporary competition and understanding on their best day where they're setting the bar for a gold medal, and either you're swimming that fast or you're not. And so it all becomes entirely measurable. You can find trainers and coaches that understand how to get you there, but it all started with that really, really specific goal. So if you don't have that specific goal, then you can't even put a roadmap by which then you can see if you're actually making progress towards that or not. So invariably, in the beginning, you're almost certainly going to be doing the wrong things. You're going to be doing things that aren't moving you as rapidly towards your goal as you want. But when you can measure it and you have that roadmap and you can accurately identify whether or not you're taking steps, then you can adjust, tweak, and move on. So I'll give you guys an example. The whole reason that I'm here in New York was to meet with the former head of one of the major comic book companies, and literally I said, I have 2 questions, and I spent 2 days with him. Over the next 2 days, your job is to help me answer 2 questions. Question number 1, why am I going to fail? And then question number 2, once I understand why I'm going to fail, how do I ensure that I succeed? And then you really look at just the really hard answers. And once you have that in place, then it's like, okay, I've got a rough idea of what I need to be executing against, the things that I'm going to need to learn, the people that I'm going to need to talk to, the problems with distribution that have to be solved or accounted for, all of that. And then you go build out answers to those problems, you see which ones work, and then you change and adjust as you go. But that really is, at a very high level, one of the things you have to do. Talk to people that already know, get them to break down for you the things you need to be doing. And that's how you evolve your thinking over time. All right, next question is from Carolina Wilk. This is from Facebook. Tom! Exclamation point. How do you make yourself do things that you don't want to but have to? There's really only one way that I know to do this reliably, and that is to really care deeply about the thing that you're trying to do. So to me, it's about identifying something that you get more energy out of than it takes from you. And I think people try to sum that up by saying, find something that you're passionate about. And first of all, you have to be really careful because you don't find, you're going to create passion. Passion is created, it's not discovered. So how do you learn to create that excitement around something that you care about? So do that by encountering a lot of things until you find one that really piques your interest, and then engage with that heavily. And as you engage with that, learn to fan the flames to really create it as an obsession, which one of the easiest ways to create it as an obsession goes like this. Say in your head, this is something that I really enjoy, I love, it interests me for all these reasons. Like loop back over that as to why it's something that really drives you. Focus on the things that you like, repeat it in your head. Man, I really got into that. I got into it for this reason. This is why I'm excited about this. And then externalize that. And a huge part of this, and one of the things that I do, one of the reasons that when I'm doing a live like this, like these guys will tell you in the room, 2 seconds before we started rolling, I was talking in a totally different manner than I am right now. I'm using much bigger physical expressions. And I do that because for these lives to give me more energy than they take, I need to embody the excitement. I need to remind myself of connecting with you guys and why that's important to me and why that's fun. And in doing that, it makes me want to do the next live even more because I remember how it gave me energy instead of just taking it away. And I think about connecting with you guys, and I think about the people that write in and all that stuff. So I'm intentionally doing that. I'm intentionally looping around the things in the community that bring value to me. I'm intentionally embodying my excitement during this so that then as I replay this later in my mind, that I remember how it was exciting and it was fun. So learning to do those things, learning to take conscious control of that process, is going to give you the excitement that you need. Then, when you hit those things that you don't want to be doing, you're so excited and you so embody that enthusiasm for the thing you're trying to do, that you believe in, that mission, that goal, that thing that like you would die for and you've built into your life to live for it. That thing is giving you that energy. It becomes your passion. And that passion is the thing that's going to see you through. But you created all of that. So make sure that whatever you're trying to do, you actually give a shit about. That's the real answer.
Rule number 8 is overcome failure.
When you feel broken, when you feel embarrassed, when you've been knocked to your knees, you're going to be able to rebound quickly because you have a mindset that understands the nature of failure itself. And the nature of failure itself is that if you're willing to stare nakedly at your inadequacies, completely accept that that failure was entirely your fault, not point the blame at anybody else, even if there really are people to blame, because that's not going to help you, other than to say, I picked the wrong people, or I didn't help them get the skill that they needed, whatever, but looking for what you would do differently next time so that you can actually do it different next time so you can actually get the better result. If you can do all that, stare nakedly at your inadequacies, recognize what you need to do differently, and then have the strength to endure through all of that emotional pain and the boredom of having to do this again with a slight tweak on it to improve, to iterate, and then try it again. Then you're going to be able to get where you want to go. Then you're going to be able to run what I call the physics of progress. The physics of progress are exactly what I just said. You try something to the best of your ability. You fail to some extent. You don't make excuses. You stare nakedly at your inadequacies. You figure out what you did wrong, what you can do differently next time. Then you do that different thing next time. You will fail again though, but you'll be a little bit closer. You'll once again assess nakedly. You will get a little bit smarter. You will try again. And you will just keep going in that loop over and over and over. And that loop will lead you where you want to go. So when you feel like you've lost your willpower, the answer is just get up and try again. And if you don't have the energy, ask yourself one simple question. Why are you doing what you're doing? There's a reason that Simon Sinek says, start with why. Once you know why you're doing what you're doing, now you've got the chance to actually dig deep in those moments where you feel that everything you've built inside of you has failed you. You're going to be able to reach in, remember why you're doing this, which is definitively going to be about you and how you can help other people. And if it's not, if it's just about you, we found the problem. Because you need to do something that allows you to serve not only yourself, but other people. We have an inbred need to serve the tribe. So figure it out, figure out how what you're doing is going to help other people, lock in on that. Also, in those moments where you're down, and if you ask yourself, why am I doing this? And you think of all the beautiful things you're going to do, all the people that you're going to help, and it's still not enough. And those times will happen. You're on your knees. No amount of helping somebody else is going to get you back up. Do you know what's going to serve you in that moment? The darkness, the dark side, anger, rage, fury, ferocity. If you don't have those, if you can't access them, if you think that they are off limits in some way, you won't have what you need to be resilient when your willpower fails you. So my friends, as Jordan Peterson says, become a dangerous man or woman. Be capable of great violence and keep it under wraps. Because in that moment, when you're broken, what I want you to do is channel into that. And you're going to think about the people that want you to fail. You're going to think about the people that will dance in your grave. You want to think about the people that will laugh as they read your obituary, who will laugh as they think about all the things you said you were going to do that you never did and that they knew you were a loser. Think about them. And in that moment, raise your weapon, in your mind, of course, and refuse to let them be right.
Rule number 9 is use pain to succeed.
Pain is amazing, it's wonderful, and it is, as Ray Dalio would say, and unfortunately I'm not pointing to Ray Dalio, but I am pointing to somebody who is deep in his world, who shares my love for principles. As Ray Dalio would say, pain plus reflection equals progress. Some part of me wishes that we didn't need to go through the pain. Some part of me wishes that pleasure burned things into your mind as powerfully as pain, but it doesn't. So going through the painful experiences really is incredibly, incredibly powerful. But there isn't anything in my life that I'm like, hey, I want to go through that again. The fact is, the reason that I remember it is because it was painful. And so the pain was exactly what I needed in order to burn it into my nervous system, in order to not make those mistakes again. So I'll give you some of the powerful lessons that I had to learn in very painful ways. So wanting to be right, thinking that I'm good and smart and all of that, that really was one of those things that over a very long period of time brought me so close to depression that I knew that I never wanted to be there again. And it was feeling like I was a sham, feeling like I was full of shit, and not knowing how to break into the film industry, like that was paralyzing. And I thought that you either were good or you weren't. And so when I made my final thesis film at USC, which should have been the highlight of my career up to that point, and I should have just looked at it as a breathtaking learning experience, but instead it made me feel worthless, and it made me feel like I didn't have any talent. And so that was so uncomfortable and so painful that really echoed through my life for years and years until I learned how to really frame that. So while I don't want to go through that again, it really taught me the most fundamental lesson, which is to embrace that we're all hopelessly average, and that the reality that we need to face is it's all going to come down to your willingness to acquire those skills.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is build better beliefs.
You have a lot of really dumb beliefs that you have mistaken for objective truth. Everybody gets trapped inside their own minds. Nobody more so than me. And because we all get trapped inside of our own minds, if you really want to make change in your life, the first thing you're going to have to do is recognize what those beliefs are, unwind them, and then you can begin to layer the new beliefs in. And that's the second thing, is you need to build up a set of beliefs that's going to take you where you want to go. Now, we live in what many people refer to as a post-truth world. Well, I'm here to tell you, boys and girls, that the truth is going to slap you about the head, neck, and chest. As much as you would like to avoid it or hope, pray, pretend that it isn't real, we are all beholden to the way the world works. And the world works in some kind of way, and we all filter everything through our brain. And that is the third thing, that you are having a biological experience. There is a reality to be faced. So let me thread the needle between these two things. So you're going to be building up this set of beliefs, and you're going to be doing it in a way that recognizes the truth of the way that the world is, including your own biology. So what do I mean by you have to layer on beliefs? So you have all these false beliefs that you're mistaking as reality. You're going to recognize those. You're going to begin unwinding them. Now you're going to figure out what the truth is. The truth, very simply, is that which most efficiently moves you towards your goals. Now, what do I mean by that? So if you think in the beginning, there was Newtonian physics, and that helped everybody understand how the planets were revolving around the sun. It helped describe the motion of large bodies, as they say. But then Einstein came around, and even though Newtonian physics opened up the world and answered a lot of questions and moved us a step closer to the truth, and at that time, you could have said, hey, Newtonian physics are the truth, and you would have been effectively right. It was the most effective thing that we had to move us forward. Now, instead of it being a post-truth world, when we realize, oh, actually, Einstein has a version that allows us to even more efficiently move towards our goals. So, for instance, we could not have had GPS with Newtonian physics. It wasn't until we had relativity and special relativity that we were able to get so precise that we could nail down someone's position at speed to within a couple of feet. So it required us to get even better at predicting the outcome of our actions. And so when people ask me what the truth is, what I tell them is whatever belief allows you to most accurately predict the outcome of your actions. Now, that doesn't mean that you're making it up. It means your ability to predict the outcome of your actions is tied to what is real. So the reason that you're more able to predict the outcome of your actions when you understand, in the case of physics, Einstein's general relativity and special relativity is because it gives you a higher degree of accuracy. So it isn't that Newtonian physics were wrong, they were directionally correct. It's just that we're always refining. Now, as most physicists will tell you, there's actually something beyond Einsteinian physics. I think that's how you would say that. And that is what they call the theory of everything. So there's a gap between relativity and special relativity, and quantum physics, and nobody quite knows what that thing is that's going to bridge all of that together. So even though we're not all the way the progress that we've made from Newtonian, the Bible tells us everything that is true, to Newtonian physics, and then to relativity and special relativity, and now there's going to be something even beyond that. And each time that we get closer to the truth, we're able to predict more and more things. That's how you need to think about unwinding the poor beliefs that you have, which are moving you away from your goals because they do not give you a frame of reference with which you can most accurately predict the outcome of your behaviors and your actions. And so you're trying to then strip those away, get to the ones that more efficiently move you towards your goals. And again, the only reason that you're gonna be moving more efficiently towards your goals is because that belief is more accurately aligned to the way the world actually works, including your own biology and your brain and the way that you distort and interpret the world. Your brain, unfortunately, is not designed to give you an accurate representation of the world. Your brain is designed to keep you alive long enough to have kids that have kids. And the difference between what evolution thought would be most useful to keep you alive long enough to have kids that have kids, and what actually is most useful in a modern context, there is a gap. And that gap leads to things like obesity, diabetes, Alzheimer's, all that kinds of stuff, because all of our impulses lead us to behave in a way that made sense when food, for instance, was hyper scarce. But now that that food is not hyper scarce, we find ourselves in a position where we're just constantly overeating and people get themselves in trouble. So once you begin to realize, oh, wait a second, just following the impulse to eat is not a useful way to determine whether I should consume something or not. So I'm going to refine my beliefs around that sometimes I'm actually going to ignore hunger, or I'm going to get a better understanding of macronutrients and how they act as signaling molecules. And so in the case of diet, this is a bit like going from not knowing anything to Newtonian physics, right? Then to getting all the way to like the really fancy stuff where we're able to use food science to do things like a fasting mimicking diet, so on and so forth. So just to re-anchor us, you start with all of these beliefs that are cobbled together through run-ins with your family and what they believe to be true, run-ins with failure in life, embarrassment, your friends, pop culture, all of that stuff, and that steers you to want things, to think of the world in a certain way, to love certain things about yourself, to hate certain things about yourself, all of that, which is creating this jumbled mess in your mind of how things should be, which is further complicated by the biology of having a brain that was created slowly and blindly over millions of years of evolution. And as you begin to understand things like, and this again is a partial truth, but it will get you directionally in the right direction, that the brain is comprised of 3 layers, again, only directionally accurate. And you have what they call the lizard brain at the center, all instinct all the time. Then you've got the mammalian brain, all emotion all the time. And then the outer layer, you have the human brain, we'll call it, which is the part that is able to process higher level cognition. And so when you understand that you have a brain directionally that's made of those 3 layers, then you can begin to realize, oh, so I don't just need to, just like I'm not going to use hunger as the determining factor as to whether or not I eat, I'm going to have a more nuanced understanding of my biology and why I might feel hungry even when I don't need calories. I'm not just going to listen to my emotions. I'm going to realize that my brain works in some kind of way, and I need to layer in a belief system about how the brain works that allows me to more accurately predict the outcome of my actions. So instead of just being emotional, which is going to lead me to a suboptimal pattern of behavior, where people get angry at times where building a bridge would be a more appropriate response, or even just calming yourself down, or they are fearful in the face of an opportunity. Take speaking in public, for example. Much of my success at Impact Theory has been built on my ability to speak in front of a camera or in front of a live audience. But nonetheless, I had all kinds of fear, especially in the beginning of doing that. And so recognizing, oh, that fear was meant to keep me alive when I was a part of a hunter-gatherer band of people, and I had to be very careful about pissing off anybody that was in charge, and I could find myself isolated. And so I had to fight through that emotional layer to get to a cognitive, logical layer that allowed me to come up with a belief that it was okay if I failed, it was okay if I risked things and embarrassed myself. It's even okay if I get pushed out of one group, I can always find another, right? In a modern context, all of that makes a lot more sense. And so as we refine our thinking and build this new set of beliefs, we can actually get closer, again, to predicting more accurately the outcome of our behaviors.
There is a metric ton of uncertainty right now. There's no two ways about that. But you get to control how you spend your time. So when you think about making the most of this time, if you allow yourself to get overwhelmed by the uncertainty, then you're going to be paralyzed and you're not going to make good use of this time. Versus if you know what you want to be accomplishing, you know exactly what your goal is. You know, hey, 6 months from now, I want to be doing this. A year from now, I want to be doing this, whatever. You can't control what happens to the world. So literally shut that out of your mind. Build the skill set that you want to build that allows you to do the things you want to do at the end of 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years, whatever that is, however far out that you're looking. Skills have utility. Decide what that skill set is, and now we're going to spend the time building that, because that is something that we can control. We can go in and we can get good at that thing. Now, when you're in the process of getting good, hitting plateaus is absolutely unavoidable. What you want to do is figure out what is it that's beginning to break down. So if you're a violinist, what is it? Do you have a hard time reading music? Cold reading? Do you have a hard time with the finger positioning? Do you have a hard time with changing tempos? Like whatever is the weakness that makes you feel like you've plateaued, you have to identify what the difference is between where you are and where you want to be. Now, oftentimes that's identifying somebody who's better than you and saying, why are they better than me? And not like in a judgment about their worth or anything like that. Just what is it that they do better than me? And then begin to dissect it. Look, there is quite literally, much to my dismay, nothing that as of today I'm the best in the world at. Now, drives me crazy when people do this. Sure, I could sub-segment things far down enough to say that, you know, I'm the best person recording podcast answers from the hours of 4 p.m. to 4:07 p.m. in the zip code, you know, of whatever. Sure, but as of right now, at a macro level, there is nothing that I am trying to be the best at that I'm actually the best at. But I don't let it damage my self-esteem to stare nakedly at my inadequacies, because my self-esteem is built around entirely being the learner, acknowledging where I'm lacking, right? Lacking in the sense of there's a gap between where I am and where I want to be. That's the lack, self-defined. And I'm willing to stare nakedly at that and say, cool, this person up here is better than me. I want to beat them. I want to get better than them. But I also need to acknowledge what they're better than me at. Now, can I just get better than them at that thing? Do I need to find a separate thing for me to get good at, right? So if I were trying to play basketball, I'm not going to try to beat LeBron James in a one-on-one. He has physical attributes that I think it would be next to impossible for me to counter directly. But there are other things that I might be able to get good at. I might be able to read the court better. I might be better at passing. Who knows? But you go and identify, given the 50% of me that's hardwired that I can't change and the 50% of me that is malleable, how do I bring the reality of those two things together in a way that allows me to perform at the level that I want? So you've identified what it is you're underperforming at, and now you're going to go into deliberate practice. So there's a book by Anders Ericsson called Peak. In that book, he breaks down the process of deliberate practice, of how you take the things that you're not good at, not the things you already are good at, which is what most people will tell you. Lean into your strengths. That's some bullshit. You, yes, know what your strengths are. Yes, leverage them whenever you're in a performance situation and you have to outperform. But when we're talking about practice, We don't want to lean into the things that we already do well. We want to systematically break out the things that we're not good at and find a way to do a practice cycle, a repetition cycle that allows us to actually get better. This is not blind repetition. This is strategic repetition designed to give a desired outcome, whether it's being able to reach music faster. You're going to have to be able to measure this stuff. So figuring out what it is, finding a way to measure it, finding a way to break down the practice elements into steps so that you get better at one small thing, which stacks on another small thing, which stacks on another small thing, until you're actually bringing all of these small things that you have practiced religiously, diligently, deliberately to get better. And now when you go back to perform again, you're able to perform at a higher level. So not accepting a plateau is a big part of it. Not thinking, well, when I've hit this plateau, that just is what it is and I've reached the limits. I can pretty much assure you, nobody is ever going to reach the limits of their capabilities before they die. There just isn't enough time. So breaking it down into those smaller pieces that stack, practicing the things you're bad at, grouping it back together, and then going out to perform, and not letting yourself get overwhelmed by the uncertainty. That is the answer.
That's an incredible question. This is something that I have lived through. So when Quest was small, it was very easy for me to do what I was saying at the top, lead by example. I was there on the production line. I would take the hardest job and we would literally agree. What is the hardest job? This is the hardest job? Cool. If this is the hardest job, I'm going to be the one that's going to do it. And I would get in there and I would do it with all my might. And not only would I do it, but I would uplift other people. I would bring energy and enthusiasm. And I'm an introvert by nature. Let me tell you right now. Now, in fairness, I have a pretty easy time going to extroverted. So my default, though, is introverted. Now, by going on the line, by encouraging other people, by taking the hard job, all of a sudden, it was very easy for me to get people to rally behind me. But as we scaled the company, now all of a sudden, there were a ton of people that had never seen me working like that. So to them, I was almost a mythological figure. By that point, I was creating YouTube content. So, we had 3,000 employees. Many of them had never met me. And so to them, it was like, oh my God, that's the guy that runs a company or the guy that's on YouTube, whatever. And it had a really problematic effect on the way that they approached me. And so what I began to realize is you have to have a culture. You have to show people up close what gets results, intoxicate them with certainty. Okay, that's a huge part. If you really want to take your leadership game to the next level, you want to make sure you know exactly what needs to be done. So within the world of influence you're trying to have, you know where you're trying to go. So you have a goal, very clear goal. You can articulate that goal. This is where we're going. And then you never, and I mean never, let somebody outwork you. And when you have certainty on where you're going, you tell other people what that is, we're going to go after this. Most people live their entire lives doubting themselves, doubting the path that they're going on. And even when some element of what I'm saying isn't going to work out, but you believe to the core of your being, I'll adjust, I'll figure it out. Now you can intoxicate people with certainty and just go like a bat out of hell towards that thing, working in a way that nobody else is going to match. And if when you do that, you elevate those around you rather than say, hey, why are you losers not working as hard as me? You say, hey, we're a team. I want to lift you up. I want to help you. I want to help you get there. Okay. So now you establish that with those around you in that near group. You make that the culture. This is how we move here. This is what we're about. So you're as good as what you can write down. So you write down what that culture is. You let people know what it means to be a part of this team. Then when they get in, you're encouraging them, you're elevating them. You start with the people closest to you. Because you've been able to write the culture down, you know which way they have to act. You hold them accountable. You ask them to hold you accountable, right? You're not trying to be above this. You're trying to be in it, trying to show people what it means. So now you've got your core group, then they're going to have their core group, and then that core group is going to have their core group, and now that influence goes down. So you definitely have to set the example, but when you scale, you have got to get people to understand what the culture is, get them to lead by example, get them to intoxicate people with certainty, get them to show people what it means to have a goal and to go after it and to live up to the standards of that culture. And now when you elevate people and you're lifting them up and you're not trying to beat them down, then you get something really, really incredible. Then people will follow you because it's a game of elevation. It's a game of skill acquisition. It's a game of goal accomplishment. It's not bullshit. You're not wasting people's time. You're really making progress. And progress is one of the most foundational pillars of human happiness.
Step number 1, have a goal. Make it specific. Make sure you know the rules of the game you're playing. Make sure you know what a win looks like. In fact, that may be the most important question that you could ask yourself. The most pointed thing that you could determine in your life is to know, what does it look like to win? Once you know what it looks like to win, then you can work backwards. Then you can figure out what you need to do to score. Then you can figure out the skills that you're going to need in order to get great, in order to go out and dominate, in order to be better than anyone that has ever come before you. But to do that, you've got to know what your goal is. And once you have that, as Dale Carnegie said, if you want to conquer fear, don't sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy. So now you have your goal. Now you're telling people what you're going to do. Now you're telling yourself who you're going to become. And it is terrifying to me how people can pacify themselves with a sense of accomplishment simply by having a goal. So let me tell you right now, the thing that separates the people who dream from the people who execute is a willingness to act. And at the end of the day, nothing is going to stop you. Not fear, not inability, not inadequacy. The only thing that will stop you is failing to start. You've got to find a way to get yourself going. You've got to find a way to take that desire, that interest in you, and turn it into a raging inferno, something that's going to get you moving and going ahead, that will trample everything in its path. Once you're able to do that, nothing, and I mean nothing, will be able to stop you.
Fulfillment is very simple for me. And it has to do with the directives that are embedded in your brain from an evolutionary standpoint. So you must work hard, it's embedded in your brain, to acquire skills that matter to you, that allow you to elevate yourself and others in service of a goal that's both exciting and honorable. So exciting and honorable means that you're just amped about it. You dig it. So I dig storytelling. I do. And I want to help people through storytelling. I do. My life circumstances have led me to that. The way that I'm hardwired, I just have an outsized response to stories. And so I'm drawn to that. And because of life experience, I want to use stories to help people. So that's very exciting for me. Now, it's also honorable because I'm not just looking to make myself rich or be admired for telling a cool story. I actually want to help people with that story, and I hold myself accountable to that. So when you have that cocktail, you're working hard to garner a set of skills that allow you to serve not only yourself, but other people. That's fulfillment. So people can say whatever they want. And I know, like, if I'm actually out there every day doing my best to help people, I'm going to feel good about that. No, I'm not going to feel good about people misunderstanding that. That's still going to suck. But I know what's in my heart. And so if I'm like, no, for real, I'm showing up no matter what people say, I really am showing up to help people, then that will give you the emotional resilience that you need to see yourself through. So fulfillment is, it's able to withstand even moments of unhappiness. And when you have fulfillment, the thing that you believe in that you're fighting for, then it gets easier to push through, whatever frustrations, difficulties, the mob coming after you, whatever. If you don't have that, and you were just trying to be famous or get approval, and it feels like the entire world is piling on you, you just are like, yeah, I'm done with this. So there really has to be something you're fighting for.
Have very clear goals. It always freaks me out. Most people stop at the first sort of vague notion of what they want to do. I'm going to punch myself in the mouth if somebody comes up to me again and says, I want to help people. That's rad. That comes from a beautiful place. I could totally get it. But that's like coming to me and saying, I want to win an Olympic gold medal. Awesome. Winter or summer? Summer. Fantastic. Swimming or tennis? Swimming. Excellent. Backstroke? Freestyle? Like, at some point, it's got to get so specific because you have to know what skills you need to acquire. You have to work backwards from the goal, and the goal has to be hyper-specific. So if boredom is the #1 killer of entrepreneurs that they're not able to make it through, the next one is they don't have clear goals. And the worst part is they think they do. That's the part that terrifies me. The worst part is they think they do. Until you know exactly what your mission is and exactly what your business model is and what problem you solve, what very concrete problem that people are freaking out to have solved, until you do that, you don't have the necessary ingredients to build your business. All right, don't be romantic, be pragmatic. Look at the data. The data will tell you what to kill. The data will tell you what's working and what's not. This was the single best piece of advice that was ever given to me, and I ignored it for 3 years. I'm so embarrassed by that I always make sure any talk I give, people hear this. Know more about your product, service, industry, whatever, than anyone else. Than anyone else. If you guys have ever seen my interview show, the reason that it's doing as well as it's doing is I know more about the guest. One guest actually said this. I know more about the guest than their mother. I just put in more work than their mother. That's the truth. I go out and I research and I read everything and I watch every video that I can. And so I know so much about that person. I know I'm going to give a different interview than anyone has ever given before because nobody's done that level of research. Not only does it blow the guest away and totally endear them to me, but it gets us to the point where we can give an interview that has unique value. So know more about what you're doing than anyone else in the world and grind, baby, grind. For 2 years, that's what I look like every day. Hairnet, lab coat, gloves. Put in the work. Put in the work. And this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you're really going to separate the people that are wantrepreneurs from the people that are real entrepreneurs. You've got to want to grind. You've got to learn to love that. You've got to learn to love to put in the work, to be proud of yourself that you showed up and put in the work, to be proud of yourself that you taught yourself how to suffer, to be proud of yourself that you're developing a mindset where you believe I can do anything I set my mind to. And by the way, once you believe that you can do anything you set your mind to without limitation, how you spend your time becomes a spiritual consideration. How you spend your time becomes a spiritual consideration because you could be doing something. If you want to end hunger, end hunger. What's stopping you? Bill Gates is actually going to end malaria. He's going to do it because he had the tenacity to generate the resources and because he has a mind that allows him to work on the infrastructure and figure out how to actually solve that problem. Do not, under any circumstances, make Bill Gates or anyone else extraordinary to let yourself off the hook. Don't do it. Don't sell yourself short. And this is where I see people go wrong all the time. They look at somebody who's amazing and they say, well, they're just naturally gifted. I could never do that. You couldn't do it because you believe you can't. And because you believe you can't, you don't start putting in the work. Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. He wasn't exactly showing all the promise in the world. My own mother, when I left for college, quietly assumed I was going to fail and didn't admit that for years. I showed no early signs of promise. I actually have a version of this talk where I show photos from my childhood and people are like, yeah, you just look stupid. And it's true. I used to dress like a clown. And I mean that almost literally. So my waist was size 36, and I wore size 54 pants. I wore literal jester hats. I had one of those big chains that connected to my belt. I had shoulder-length hair. I did not exactly look the part, and I didn't take myself seriously. It really is a game of transformation. It really is a game of understanding that you can become something. So even though I didn't start with the requisite skills, even though I wasn't a born entrepreneur, which is why I start this tale with that, even though I wasn't a born entrepreneur, I could acquire and did acquire the skills that were needed to execute. It is a very long road that leads you here. Right now, most entrepreneurs in the world are thinking about one thing: winning a championship ring.
One of the things I think people don't understand about being a CEO is that ultimately being a CEO, running a company is almost, it's 70% people. The strategy is definitely important. But man, momentum isn't about moving fast, or I should say it isn't just about moving fast. It's about getting a group of people pointed in the same direction and moving fast. And so understanding how to galvanize a team and get them pointed in the same direction is really, really critical. So in this specific time, number one is leading by example, always and forever. If you want to do anything when people are involved, whether it's kids, whether it's somebody you love that is, there's a piece of advice you desperately want them to take and they're not taking it, whether it's your company, the answer is always, first and foremost, lead by example. That is critically important. So you want to be hopeful. You want to be optimistic. You want to show them through your behaviors and your actions time and time again with an inhuman level of consistency exactly how to face adversity. Now, you don't want to bullshit. You don't want to lie. So you want to make sure that you're doing the work to make sure that you're keeping yourself hopeful and optimistic. Now, how do we stay hopeful and optimistic? We have to have certain beliefs in place and we have to have certain rules in place. So first of all, as it comes to rules, I know that I always need to be moving forward. I can't ever be afraid to make a decision, that I would rather be running 1,000 miles an hour in the wrong direction than standing still. Okay, that rule has served me very well. Now, why is it better? Tom, you're running in the wrong direction. That's way worse than standing still. Not true. The reason that you never want to stand still is there's zero progress made when you stand still. When you move, you're at least learning, even if you're moving in the wrong direction. Failure is the most information-rich data stream you will ever encounter. Let me say that again. Failure, moving in the wrong direction, is the most information-rich data stream you will ever encounter, meaning you're going to learn a lot. So now when you turn around and you start moving in the right direction, you're making a huge amount of progress. So even though, yes, you have to backtrack, it's still far better than standing still and not learning those lessons. So that is huge. So you have that rule. Now, beliefs. You need to believe that if it doesn't violate the laws of physics, then you can solve the problem. What happens is most people stay in this frame of mind where all they can see are the problems. And right now, there is an avalanche of problems. It is so easy to get mired in the problems. But if you have a belief that as long as it doesn't violate the laws of physics, this is possible, that any obstacle can be overcome, that you just have to figure out what it is that's going to allow you to go over this obstacle, under this obstacle, through this obstacle, around this obstacle, whatever, but you know that giving up is not an option. Now it's like, cool, hey, even if I fail, even if I mess up, I'm going to learn. So there's some hope, there's some optimism, right? You can meet your team with a truism, something that you actually believe. You can use Jocko Willink's language, which he says anytime something goes wrong, his only response is good. The enemy is bearing down on us. Good. We don't have enough equipment. Good. And because he meets it with that, he stays in a solution-oriented mindset. Now, you always want to be in a solution-oriented mindset when all you're doing is focusing on the problems, and the most sinister thing about excuses is how valid they are. So I get it. You have every excuse in the book for things to fail, to not be optimistic, to not be hopeful. I get it. And it's all real. We are going through the most devastating time for a business ever. And how do I respond to that? Good. Because I know in this, there's going to be a solution and I'm going to figure it out where a lot of people are going to break because they're not going to be able to get their head in the right place. So my team can see that I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic because I have that belief, because I have the rule to be moving forward, to figure this out, to not be afraid to fail. And they see me with that like almost naive optimism, always moving forward, but they also see me learning from my mistakes, reorienting and moving forward again. If you can do that, you're actually going to get results, and nothing is more hopeful than results.
Once you accept that the thing that separates you from the rest of the animal kingdom is an unimaginable ability to become, you have an unimaginable ability to become something. In 2014, private companies averaged 8% annual growth. After I went into my partners and I said I quit, and I'm going to go do something that makes me feel alive, they were totally shocked. And I got all the way to my house, and I was on the phone with my wife. I did it. I had been unhappy for so long. And I said I did it. I told them I quit, I gave back the equity, here I am, and I'm pulling into the driveway at my house, and my phone rings, and it's my partners. They say, come out to dinner with us.
Out of respect and love, I went out to dinner with them, and they said the now famous words, "We could do this without you, but we don't want to." And that gave me what I needed to connect to something other than money. It reminded me of the brotherhood. It reminded me that I had fallen in love with these guys as human beings, that there was something more than money. There was something more than being a clever marketer. That I remembered for a second who I am, the things that make me unique, that I have a desire to connect, that I actually enjoy communities, that I'm not a guy with a killer instinct. I'm not interested in stepping on my competitors' necks. That's just not how I'm wired. I'm wired to build something. I'm wired to see people shine. I love seeing other people win. I think it's incredible. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't want to win. I want to win at the absolute highest level. I want to be the greatest of all time. I want more people to write about me going to Mars because they're terrified to try to match my intros. I want that, right? And I hope each and every one of you wants to play at that level. I hope each and every one of you looks at the greatest of all time and says, if I'm willing to break myself and have to get there, I could do it. But being honest with who you are, being honest that if there's something else that you want to bring to the table, that you find a way to do that. And so I said, guys, I will come back and work with you on one condition. I will never prioritize money again. My highest value in business is camaraderie. And at the time, that was sacrilege. We had made a pact with each, there was 3 of us. The 3 of us had made an actual pact that we would do whatever it took to make our technology company more profitable. And if that meant skipping a family vacation, if that meant waking up at 2 a.m. on a Saturday to meet and brainstorm, we did it. Both of those stories are real. We did things like that. I would go away with my wife for Christmas to see her family in London, and I would literally take a camera with me so I could watch the company back in LA. I've never switched off. I didn't take days off. I was working. No matter where I was working 7 days a week. I didn't take a real vacation, meaning that I wasn't actually working while we were on it for 6.5 years.
Your diet is one of the most important things that you can do to boost your energy, your focus, and your productivity. What you should be eating varies wildly, and I will just tell you right now that while I'm going to give you a very simple thing that you can follow, and it's going to take care of 80% of all of your desires and problems, know that there is massive variability at the individual level, and that you should be testing a lot of different things to find out what is right for you. So what I'm about to lay out is the sort of generic strategy that I think everybody should try. But getting into the nitty-gritty is going to require you to do a lot of testing. There is no way around this. I wish that dieting was more simplistic, but based on your lifestyle, based on your heredity, based on your microbiome, all of this stuff is going to dramatically vary. So be very thoughtful. Make sure you run experimentation. Having said that, what are the things that I think are universal? Number 1, you want to be eating whole food whenever humanly possible. So you want to eat food that is recognizable from what it was in nature. So a piece of meat should look like a piece of meat. It shouldn't be highly processed. Your vegetables should look like vegetables. I mean, you should be brushing dirt off of them. That kind of recognizable from nature. Nuts should be, ideally raw. I'll be really honest, I do sometimes eat roasted nuts, but if I'm honest, that's worse than if you're just eating them raw. So you want things that are as close to their natural state as humanly possible. The less that they have been messed with, manufactured, altered in any way, the better off you're going to be. I will say that heat is something that I apply to virtually all of my food. There are some really interesting theories about, from an evolutionary standpoint, that cooking is one of the things that allowed us to grow the big brain, because by cooking it, you not only soften the food and make it easier to chew, but you also release some of the nutrients. It's beyond the scope of this to get into that, but when I say raw, I don't mean that everything needs to be uncooked. I just mean the less processed, the better. Things that I eat every day. I eat a lot of eggs, red meat. I eat some chicken, a bit of pork, but I'm eating a fair amount of meat, so I get a good portion of my calories from that. Again, individual variability. If you're doing a vegan thing, I'm totally about it. Test for the individual response that you get. I find that the more plant forward I go, there's like a breaking point where I start feeling worse. Could be me, it could be me doing it poorly. But as long as you're doing whole food, I think you're on the money. So eating whole food and making sure that you're avoiding sugar, that is like the big thing. So I don't think that you can eat fruit with impunity. I think you have to be very thoughtful about that. If you're unsure of what fruit is going to impact you and how, I highly recommend getting a continuous glucose monitor that will allow you to eat fruit if you want and see what kind of glycemic response you have. For instance, I find that I can make certain fruit smoothies, and if I eat it slowly enough, my glycemic response will go up to about 120. I prefer to keep it in the 80s, but hey, if it goes up to 120 and it's sort of even and it comes back down, I don't consider that too problematic. But if I eat it really quickly and it spikes up to say 140, 150, that to me is problematic, and I don't want to be that high. So you can play with things, also what you put in the smoothie, etc. If you're going to eat fruit and vegetables, make sure that you separate fruit and vegetables. Keep those two things distinct. I think you will find by wearing a continuous glucose monitor that you're gonna have a dramatically different response to most fruit than you will to vegetables. Again, there's a lot of variability here, so the more that you test on yourself, the better. But that's really the sort of generic response. Or generic setup that I think everybody should try. Whole food whenever humanly possible, avoid sugar. Keeping your blood glucose below 100, I highly recommend it. For me, I try to keep my glucose in the 80-ish range. That's sort of my default. I also do intermittent fasting. I think that that is very effective. Getting into things like autophagy is beyond the scope of what we're talking about right now, but even that I think is going to be huge. Body composition is greatly affected by intermittent fasting. Again, individual variability. Make sure that you experiment with this stuff for yourself. I do, when you average it out, I think I went about 18 months where I was tracking every day. My average over that extended period of time was 17 and a half hours. So on the weekends, it's shorter, but on the weekdays, sometimes it's longer. Sometimes it's 19, 20, 21, 22 hours that I'll go between meals. But again, over a very extended period of time, it averages out to 17 and a half hours of not eating. Now, the way that I do that, I have my last meal around 1:15, definitely done chewing by 2 p.m., and then I don't eat again until the next day at around 9:30, somewhere around in there. Shorter on the weekends, longer during the week, and it balances out. I'm having everything from green leafy vegetables like bok choy, collard greens, kale, broccoli, to carrot, jicama. I do occasionally have some sweet potato. Gotta be a little thoughtful about that one. Watch your glycemic load. That definitely spikes me more than green leafy vegetables, but those are the mix that I use. Again, I'm eating whole foods. Virtually all of my calories come from whole food. During the week, in fact, I'd say 95% of my calories come from whole food. It's very rare that I deviate from that. But doing that allows me to have tremendous focus, a lot of energy, get the most out of my workouts, maintain my body composition, keep my fat low, keep my glycemic spikes low, so I'm not getting blood sugar spikes, which helps me maintain my energy through the day. And also just from a longevity standpoint, I think that's a great idea. I will say, go look at David Sinclair. He's got some pretty compelling information around the fact that meat may not be great for longevity. So while it makes me feel awesome, it's something called mTOR. So be thoughtful as you get into the complex weeds of this stuff. Nutrition is a very big, complex topic. Again, the only things that I consider universals are whole food and reducing sugar. Universals. Close to a universal would be intermittent fasting, though some people can have differing responses to that. So be thoughtful as you experiment with this stuff. But if you do that, like I said, 80+% of your problems are gonna go away. That's a nice low inflammation diet, and keeping your inflammation low is incredibly important. Because most people hit a gazillion emotional snags as they go through this, they derail themselves. They don't listen to the truth of their failure. They don't want to own it because it sucks. Every time, Omar, that I realize that I have screwed up, that I'm wrong, it sucks. I don't enjoy it. But the thing that keeps me going is recognizing that that is the nature of progress itself. And that if I fail to look at what I can control, that I could do differently next time, I'm either going to repeat the mistake or I'm going to quit. Now, the bad news about success is it's a game of attrition. And the really bad news is that to move forward, you must be willing to fail a lot. Because failure is the most information-rich data stream that exists, because it hurts and you actually tried something. So you tried something, there's real-world results, those results hurt.
that pain triggers the areas of the brain that have to do with memory and focus. So you really look at that thing, right? This, again, this is nature saying, hey, because there's so much information in this failure, I want to make sure that we do the things that get you to learn from that so that the next time it isn't a close call with a tiger, right? That either you can really keep distance, you're not putting yourself in that kind of dangerous situation again. And then obviously the people that really got themselves in trouble just got eaten, and so they're all wiped out. And so that becomes this loop. But every time you fail, you get this aversion response where you don't want to do this again. You don't want to look at it. You don't want to face your inadequacies.
Right.
And it's really rough. And then it's magnified 1,000-fold by social media. Because now 1,000 people are telling you that you're a moron. So it is this
and you
really...
have a team and money and time and energy and
You magnify that 1,000,000-fold. Because now there's a lot at stake for a lot of different people. And so most people, they just can't keep iterating. And so it is the game. And there's, as far as I can tell, and look, I'm constantly updating my mental models, but as far as I can tell, that's the ground floor. That really is the physics of progress. And if you can't figure out that when I just failed, and I failed publicly, and people are making fun of me, in that moment, can I just stay centered, or get centered again, because of course you're going to get knocked off? Can I recenter myself very quickly and focus on what I need to do? And once the do is back to hypothesis, back to execution. And if you can stay in that loop, what do I need to do? What's the next thing to try? Then on a long enough timeline, you can win. But most people, they just stop, man. It's just too much. It's not fun. And by the way, there is a ready-made off-ramp, because I don't know how many people should listen to me. I don't know how many people should live the kind of life that I'm trying to live, where I'm trying to have outsized success. I'm trying to build something massive. For the right person, I think that I actually have the right tools. Like, these have served me incredibly well in my life. I have the receipts to show that it works. But I also have the receipts to show emotionally it's brutal. And if you don't know how to rebalance yourself, it's not a winning proposition. So focusing on that, the mental game of like, fulfillment matters, fulfillment's important, joy is a metric, optimize your life for joy, and then you've got to play the game on a really long timeline. So you have to discount anybody that says, you know, you're a moron for this failure. It's like, that doesn't ring true to me for the following reason. Making a mistake and even doing something that is objectively stupid. Let's say that the vast majority of humanity would have seen clearly that which I missed, okay? So let's say that that was true, and I'll qualify that and say that's what we're defining as stupid. So let's say that I actually do make a stupid mistake that most people would not have made. If in that moment I give up, I'm out of the game. If in that moment I can recenter, learn my lesson, and keep going, then I put myself in an elite class, not because I can prognosticate everything accurately, but because I don't quit. And that's really been my secret, is I just don't give up.
I can't rule out that you may be in a toxic environment. So let's just say if you're in a toxic environment, that's a real thing. You want to get out of that toxic environment. You want to move on to something else. Like, just trying to change a whole organization if they are toxic is not interesting to me in the slightest. Now, toxicity comes from insecurity. So if that helps, it actually does help me to know that when people are mean-spirited, when they like to see other people fail, it's all coming from their own insecurities. I find tremendous emotional relief in that. Now I want to talk about being low. In a non-toxic environment, while I don't think anybody races to have others witness them at their worst, we've all been there. We are all deeply flawed, emotional creatures. And showing vulnerability should never be frowned on. For you, forget how people are reacting, right? So there's wallowing, and that isn't interesting. Shouldn't be interesting to you in yourself or in others. There is wanting sympathy instead of empathy. So sympathy is feel bad for me. You should never want that. Empathy is understand where I'm at. Being seen is rad. And my wife and I have an agreement. I don't want sympathy from her, no matter how hard my life gets. Empathy, desperately. And the way that we've always explained it to each other is, if I'm ever knocked to my knees, I don't want you to get on your knees with me and cry. I want you to extend a hand, tell me how much you love me, pick me back up, brush me off, and remind me of who I can become. That's rad. So I'm not worried if she sees me low. I'm not worried if my team sees me fail. I think all of us, if you're really going for something extraordinary, I think all of us are going to fail at least as much as we succeed, maybe more. And so fearing the low moments is not the right way to think about it. Recontextualize that failure as a learning opportunity. Earn people's respect, not command it. Earn people's respect by getting back up on your feet, not asking people to feel bad for you, focusing on the learning opportunity, show that you have a growth mindset, get your ego out of the way, focus entirely on getting better. And if you rebound quickly with energy and enthusiasm, even if some people take the opportunity to kick you while you're down, in the long run, people will gravitate towards you because they see that you're real, you're not posing. They see that you bounce back, that you don't whine, wallow, complain. You get up, you're focused on improvement and moving forward. And look, the reality is getting great requires you to fail over and over and over. There's an amazing quote by Winston Churchill, and he says, "Success is the ability to go from failure to failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm." And you just can't worry about what other people are thinking when you're down. You have to go, cool, this is a learning experience. I'm going to get back up. And your response to that shouldn't be orchestrated to command respect, earn respect, to even think about people. It should be you have a goal. And you know to build your skill set to the point where you're so good that you can't be denied, that all the booze in the world can't block your dunk. You have to fail. Because it really is. It isn't a saying. Failure is the most information-rich data stream you will ever encounter. In the failure, if you get your ego out of the way and you're not crying about it and you're not, worried about what other people are going to think, you're just thinking, okay, cool, I failed. And if I can understand why, then I can get better. Now you do that day in and day out, all of a sudden you're going to earn respect as a consequence of your just consistent improvement. And if I were going to sum up everything that we've talked about today, it's that. It's not focusing on earning people's respect or worrying about what they think. It's about the physics of how the world works. And the physics of how the world works is pretty straightforward. You have a goal. You have an idea of how to reach that goal, right? There's an impediment between where you are and where you want to be. You've got a theory about how to overcome that impediment. You try it. Many of the things you try will fail, or they'll be insufficient. You'll assess why it was insufficient, and you'll begin again more intelligently, as Henry Ford said. Failure is just the ability to begin again more intelligently. And you do that over and over and over and over and over, and it's what I call the physics of progress. It's just, you can't boil it down any more simple than that. All right, so don't be afraid of your low moments. If you're in a toxic environment, get out. Focus every day on getting better, and the respect will come as a result of that. Here is the reality. No matter how successful the person is that you're looking at and wishing you could be like them and thinking that they have everything all figured out, the one thing that I can promise you is that all of us struggle on the inside. That is just a reality of the human condition. Once you understand that that is a reality, that that's just a part of the human condition, then you can begin to ideally let yourself off the hook and that you're not spending a lot of time stuck there. But to give you a specific example from my life, the biggest one, the most harrowing one that I went through was in film school. So to cut a very long story short, I went to film school, believed that I had innate talent. I went into film school with a fixed mindset. I did very well at the beginning of film school. And that all to me felt like it was proof that I was right, that I was naturally gifted, that I was a born storyteller, and that I was going to go and have an illustrious career. And I actually went through a fascinating period in film school where I was both terrified that secretly I wasn't good enough, but at the same time actually believed that I was naturally gifted and this is what I was meant to do. And every bit of feedback that I got in either direction it made me believe to the core of my being that it was true. So when I would do something poorly, I would think, see, that part of me that was convinced that I actually don't have talent, you were right. And then I would do something well, and the part of me that believed that was like, see, I knew it, you were born for this. And it all came crashing down as I worked my way up the ranks at USC Film School. Only 4 people are chosen to direct what's known as a senior thesis film, or a 480. And I was one of the 4 people picked. And I was like, see, I knew it, man. I'm born for this. Of course I got picked to do one of the senior thesis films. That just makes sense. I'm that good. And I thought, okay, cool. The thing that makes the thesis film so important is the film school pays your budget to make this film. So at a time where there's no YouTube, there's no iPhones, like filming is an expensive endeavor. Here you've got somebody that's paying for it, and that becomes your calling card to the industry. So George Lucas famously made one of these films, and obviously we know how his career ended up working out. And they showed us his 480, by the way, and it was amazing. It was amazing. And so you could see that here was this gifted filmmaker. And so I have that in my head, like, look at George Lucas's films, absolutely brilliant. He's gone on to have this brilliant career. I'm going to make an equally brilliant film, or maybe a little more brilliant. And then I'm going to go become the next Lucas or the next Spielberg. And I'm going to take that film and get my 3-picture deal. And I proceeded to run smack bang into one immutable truth. And that was that I wasn't a talented filmmaker. And I don't say that to be humble. I say that out of truth, because I didn't have the skill set to make a good film. Once the level of complexity had gone beyond a certain level, so I'd thrived in these really short, really simple films. And then once you're talking actors and dialogue and, the things that would come close to what we would recognize as a normal film, I had no idea what I was doing. And try as I might, I couldn't figure out how to make the film come out well. And it didn't come out well. And I was mortified and I was embarrassed, and I never wanted anybody to see that film. And I was really and truly devastated. So I want you to imagine your whole life. So I graduated at like 22. So from 12 to 22, all I knew was I wanted to be a filmmaker, and my whole life was moving towards that. And it looked like I had the natural gift. And of course, if you're going to be an artist, you're either born with it or you're not, right? That's all anybody said. I can't express enough. In the 80s and 90s, when I grew up, when people talked about art, you either had it or you didn't. And that was that. There was no sense of growth mindset. Carol Dweck had not written the book yet. And so it wasn't even like I knew there was a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. I just knew you're either born with it or you're not. The great news was I was born with it. Here we go. It's going to be amazing. And then boom, I can't do it. And I realized, oh my God, I wasn't born with anything. I don't know how to do this. There is a tremendous amount of process to this art, and I don't know that at all. But of course, as I'm in the middle of it, I just think my world has come crashing down. I'm not gifted. I will never be gifted. And therefore, I will never be a filmmaker. I will never make anything of myself. And it was a downward spiral of epic proportions. And at the height of that, I would go home from my dead-end job and I would lay face down on the carpet because I couldn't afford furniture, and literally just sit there. I can still feel that cheap nylon carpet and the way that it felt on my face as I laid there thinking, well, my life is effectively over. Certainly my life that was working towards a dream is over. And now it's just about finding a way to be the smartest person in the room. And if that means that I have to go and work a dead end job to be the smartest person in the room, then that's what I'll do. And so I used to go and interview for jobs having nothing to do with film because I felt totally broken. And my goal was to, at some point in the interview, have the interviewer say, "You're so smart. Why are you interviewing for this role?" And because I had a fixed mindset and I so needed that praise from the outside, I was putting myself in these super weird and useless positions just to get that little nugget of, "Oh my God, like you're so smart." And I had to put myself in sort of worse and worse company to get to that point. And finally, and I don't remember what it was that led me to this idea of brain plasticity, but somewhere in the depths of my despair, I realized, can we get better? Maybe we can. And so I started reading about the brain. And that started to plant seeds in my mind that maybe brain plasticity was real and maybe I could get better. And just because I wasn't good at film today, maybe I could get better at film down the road. And I ended up getting a job teaching film because remember, those that can do, those that can't teach. So I felt like, okay, well, I can teach this even if I can't do it. And then so between reading about the brain and realizing, wait a second, if I work at this thing, I actually get better. My brain actually changes and I become better at something. And given, having gone through however many years of schooling I'd been through, I started thinking about it, like, wait a second, you would come into any class. And the funny thing is, as a kid, I remember every grade just being absolutely terrified that, well, I did okay at being a fourth grader, but mom, I'm going to get devastated as a fifth grader. I don't know what I'm doing. And no matter how many times my mom would console me and say, remember, they're going to teach you how to learn the things that a fifth grader needs to know. They don't expect you to already know it. It just wouldn't sink in. And so I was sort of back in that moment of, I don't know how to do this, but maybe my mom is right. Maybe the neuroscientists are right. And maybe I can learn to become that thing I want to become. I start teaching film. And as I'm teaching it, I realize, wait, I'm helping my students become better filmmakers. So if I can help them become better filmmakers and brain plasticity is really true, then I could get better as a filmmaker myself. And that realization changed the rest of my life. And this is why I am so obsessed with the idea of a growth mindset and brain plasticity, because the biology backs it up. And once you understand, it's what I call the only belief that matters. The only belief that matters is that if you put time and energy into getting better at something, you'll actually get better. The thing that I love is that you're using the word build, because that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. You're going to construct what you want your life to be. You're going to break it up into different hours and segments so you know when it's go time, and then you're going to build rules into your life that mandate that you show up during those times. So I have a whole host of rules in my life. They can be small, simple rules like I get out of bed in 10 minutes or less. They can be more profound and impactful rules. And I have a rule in my life where Monday through Friday, if I'm awake, I'm either working or working out. So if I were doing something like you in this situation, I would say, okay, these 2 hours or 5 hours, however much time it is that you want to allocate to the business, you're going to say, I am working on the business during these times. I'm going to tell myself, I'm going to tell other people. That way there's accountability. Then I'm going to score myself at the end of that session. Did I show up? Did I start when I said I was going to start? Did I go hard the whole time? And I'm just going to give myself a rating every day, depending on where I'm going, how I did that day. Was I distracted? Did I have flow? Was it a great day, a bad day? And by doing that, I'm going to hold myself accountable so I can see over time, did I show up when I said I was going to show up? What was the score that I gave myself for staying focused, staying on task, and getting things done? And then the third thing, to really make this stick, you've got to find a way to be excited about what you're doing. And oftentimes when people come and they say that they're having trouble making a new habit stick, the reality is they just don't want it badly enough. And When you realize that that's not an indictment on you as a person, that's a simple statement about the fact that desire is a process. So there's very few things in your life that you just sort of automatically are excited about. Most of the things, if you really want to kick ass at something, you've got to build a ton of energy into getting excited about that thing. Now, that comes in a couple different forms. Number one is your why. Why are you doing this? So it might be, hey, my husband and I were really excited about this. This is going to be our path to freedom, and building something with him. Like, this means everything to me. And I couldn't be more excited, more honored to be working side by side with my husband to build something, to show each other what we're capable of, to take care of each other, to, give ourselves what we need to build a family, whatever. You're going to make that why. You're going to say it. You're going to say it with enthusiasm. It's what I call embodying what you want to feel. So if you want to be excited, when you're telling other people, when you're even talking to yourself, when you're talking to your husband, you're actually going to let yourself get hyped up. There's a mechanism in the brain that says, whoa, hey, we're all hyped up about this. It must actually be worth being hyped up about. And it becomes a self-reinforcing loop. So we've got our why. And then we want to make sure that we're putting the identity into it that we want to get out. So if we want to be the kind of person that shows up and works hard, then we say, I'm the type of person that shows up and works hard. And you're going to lean into that and the why that you have with your husband. You guys are building something, you're excited about it, you're telling other people, you're embodying it, and now you've got the identity statement of, I'm the type of person that does this, I see this through. And you repeat that cocktail over and over, over and over, and following it up with that score, and all of a sudden, over time, and it will take time because it is a process, but over time, you're gonna stick to it because it means something to you and your husband. You've got the rule about showing up. You're rating yourself on how you did that day. You're feeling good on the days that you killed it. And you're reminding yourself to dig a little deeper on the days where you don't. And I promise, if you just work that process over and over and over, 2 weeks, a month into this, it's just going to be second nature. You're going to be showing up. You're going to be excited. You're going to see it through.
What I learned long before I actually became successful was that success wasn't going to change my insecurities. And I think most people go into it thinking that success is going to eradicate their insecurities. They look at somebody that's successful with this admiration. And they think, when I'm that successful, I will look at myself with that admiration. And it doesn't work like that. So, and what's super interesting, it's not surprising at this point. This would have surprised me in my 20s. But like I said, thankfully, I learned these lessons when I was still struggling, is that your insecurities are going to go with you wherever you go, and the name of the game is really about skill set. And skill set in a few different ways. Skill set in, there are things that I want to accomplish in this world, and I must get good at them. But then there's also skill set in managing my own mind, and that is the real juice. So you gave me that poster, Outwork Everyone, and when I was writing a message on it, it's like, to outwork everyone, there is a certain thing that must be true in your mind, which is you have to know that all you have is this moment. And so success is not some thing in the future where you will cross a finish line and feel forever the way you've always wanted to feel, which is what people think. Success will feel exactly like this moment. Whatever your life is right now, if it's a mess, I could give you $1 billion and it would still be a mess. And so understanding the name of the game is really to optimize the way that you respond to your environment, the way you respond to your challenges, the way you respond to difficulties. That's it. There really are only two macro level motivators that we have in life, and that's pleasure and pain. And so what I want people to understand is, okay, so if nature only gave you two things to motivate you, pleasure and pain, why would you eliminate half of them? And so most people think that life is about avoiding the pain. I'm here to tell you right now, in a very controlled fashion, it is about really experiencing the pain, learning from it. So Ray Dalio, the most successful hedge fund manager of all time, has a perfect math equation. Pain plus reflection equals progress. If you don't feel the pain, you never reflect on it. So my thing is, I spend 80% of my time focused on the beautiful things in my life, the things I'm grateful for, the beautiful things that I want to bring into existence, all of it.
20% of the time though, I'm in the darkness, man. I'm in that Tim Grover, relentless, I'm going to make this happen if I have to break myself. And I'm not afraid to lean into that because I know how powerful it is. Now, if you really want to put numbers how powerful this is, they did a study and they wanted to find out what happens, how can we get people to endure more pain? And the punchline is hilarious. So they would take people and they would submerge their arm in a bucket of ice and they would just hold it there as long as you can. Now, at first it's just cold, but after a while it really starts to hurt. And so people would end up yanking their arms out. They found that people could hold their arm in the bucket 35% longer if you let them display anger. So put it in, they get to that point where they're about to pull it out and you tell them, yell, cuss, do whatever you need to, and they'd be able to do it. The expression of intensity, even what I'm doing right now, I can feel myself ready, right? I'm ready to strike, my muscles are tense, I've got a different posture, I bring my chin down, there's intensity in my eyes. Like, dude, I'm now feeling that because I'm embodying it, right? So it makes me really feel that. And so I actually started to tell the story earlier. I hate the gym. But what I would do to make myself work out is my wife would be on the opposite side of the gym and I would stare at her and I would imagine her being attacked. And I would imagine her being attacked by people bigger than me and that the only way that I could fight them off was to get stronger. There was nothing beautiful in it. I was not worried about aesthetics. I was worried about saving my wife. And by stepping into that dark place, and because people are like, what are you doing? But dude, I needed that motivation to push past what I want, to push past pain, boredom, all of it, and just to really get into it and get a result. But I find that people shy away from that. Look, to me, it's an 80-20 split. If you're spending more than 20% of your time there, it will be corrosive. It will start to erode your sense of self because you're gonna feel badly, right? Because I would be saying to myself, you're weak, come on, like you've gotta get stronger. If you spend 80% of your time doing that, that sucks. I don't wanna live like that. But not being able to dip into both, you'll just never hit the level of extraordinary. You may be fine, you may even be good, but you're never gonna be great.
Being an artist right now, this is like the best possible time to have something that you can do by yourself, that you can improve on by yourself, that's ultimately going to have real world consequences for you when we get to the other side of this. So here is, and something tells me that if you're playing professionally, you already know this, but here's the reality about greatness. Greatness is about doing the things that are tragically boring and that you have to repeat over and over and over to get better at them in a deliberate way. You don't just want to repeat them blindly, but in a deliberate way, buckling down and doing the things like, for a musician, playing your scales, practicing your improvisation, practicing your cold reading, all of the things that are very easy to put off when you have a job and you're busy and you're making a living. It's kind of like typing. What they find is most people sort of, their typing rate, if I remember right, it's like 65 to 70 words per minute, is where most people tap out. But I think the record is somewhere around 250 correct words per minute. So if the average person is tapping out around 65, but the delta is all the way between 65 and 250, you begin to see like how far you can really push yourself. But people get to a level that they deem acceptable and they just sort of stop there. But because everybody is being forced to shut down right now, if you're a musician and you're saying, look, I'm not worried about streaming and going live and all of that, which I think there's a whole question to be answered about doing that and about how you could generate even more revenue by going online. But you asked me to set that aside, so I'm going to set that aside. But right now is that chance to embrace a level of boredom that most people are not willing to push through in order to get to greatness. So in a business context, I always tell people boredom kills more entrepreneurs than anything. It kills more entrepreneurs than fear. Most people, they just can't slog through sucking at something and sitting in the discomfort that you get from doing the things that you're not good at long enough to get good at even those things so that you can truly go out and create art. Because I don't think you can create real art until you've mastered the basics to the point where, as Bruce Lee said, you don't think kick, you just kick. And I love that quote. And there's another Bruce Lee idea, which is, I don't fear the man who knows 10,000 kicks. I don't fear the man that does 10,000 kicks one time. I fear the man that does one kick 10,000 times. And that is this moment. And if you can take this downtime and let go of how good it feels to perform, I have to imagine a big part of the reason you got into this and that you did all of the work when you were younger to get good is because you love performing so much. But right now, that's basically off the table. So if in this moment you can buckle down, be disciplined, set your sights on something very specific that you want to get good at, disciplined practice at that thing to get good at this. On the other side of this, you're going to be far more extraordinary than you were when you went in, because you no longer have the distractions of the actual performance. You can just get down to practicing. So flip that switch in your mind and think all about coming out the other side of this a beast, an absolute monster, better than you went in. And if you can tell yourself that story, I'm committed to this, I'm willing to do these things that other people aren't willing to do, and put in the practice and understand as you're going through that unimaginable boredom, that on the other side of this is a skill set that has utility, then this becomes an extraordinary time. But if you keep telling yourself the story that so many others are telling, which is this is, a time of deprivation, it's just lamenting that you're not able to perform and all the things that made you love music in the first place, then just because you're repeating that, it becomes a dark time. Focus on the other side and you will get through this amazingly.
One, I believe doubt is a gift. Let me say that again.
I agree with
Doubt is a gift, man. If you know you're going to do something, that you will stick with it, you're not afraid to pivot or change directions, whatever, but that you know you're going to go after the things that you care about, and you're going to go after them hard, and you're not going to stop when you get tired, you're not going to stop when you get bored, you're going to stop when you're done. Like when you know that about yourself, then doubt is a gift. And so, man, I actually wish more people in my family would doubt me. At this point, my family, they don't doubt me externally, like they don't vocalize it. They may all doubt me like crazy, but they don't do me the kindness of
letting you know.
Exactly. So the reason that is a gift is because I believe that human beings are wired to leverage two different things. One, the beauty of what you're trying to create, the people that support you and love you and want to see you succeed. Like that's amazing. That feels good. It's going to give you energy. And I think you should spend 80% of your time there. There are times, however, especially when something gets really hard, really painful, that, and I've talked about this before, but if you're doing a research on pain tolerance, the one thing that they know universally will allow somebody to tolerate more pain is anger. Actually expressing anger. So if you put somebody's arm in an ice bucket, make them hold it there, like at first it's not so bad, but then it really gets to the point where like this hurts. And when it gets to the point where it hurts, if you want, it's something like 30% longer. If you let people go and like really express like anger and rage, they'll be able to deal with that 30% longer. So there is something, you're able to marshal the body's resources when it gets really hard. So in those moments, that's when I turn to the people that hate on me, that want to see me fail, that doubt that I can do it, and use that in that aggressive, dominant way to really push through. And like, under no circumstances will I let that person be right. So that's incredibly powerful. Now, the second part is they're doubting you so much that it's beginning to hurt your own mind. So now here's the thing. One, if somebody is chipping away at your ability to believe in yourself, you need to distance yourself from them. Now, this gets really hard when it's family, but it's absolutely critical. To me, like if my family were bringing me down with all the love and compassion in the world, I would let them know, hey, I can't be around this level of negativity. So we have to come to an agreement. Either you're just going to stop, like keep it to yourself, or I'm going to have to spend less and less time with you. So let me be very clear what the rules of engagement are. I love you. Like, let's really make it hard. Mom, I love you, Mom. I love you more than you can imagine. I love being around you. I want to spend time with you. But the things you're trying to do to protect me, because her intentions almost certainly are good, the things you're trying to do to protect me are actually eroding my confidence. I would, not words like this, these exact words, okay? This is the exact conversation that I would have with my mom. So it's beginning to erode my confidence. Confidence is one of the most important things that anybody needs to cultivate if they're going to go on to be successful. So I fully understand that you only have my best interest at heart, that you really want to help me and you want to make sure that I don't make a mistake that could be very detrimental to my life and my career and where I'm headed. So I understand that those are all really, really beautiful intentions, but they're having this unintended side effect. So because of that, I either need you to stop or I'm going to have to spend less and less time with you, which would be utterly heartbreaking for me. So let's agree to disagree. Let's agree that when we come together that we're going to talk about positive things, beautiful things, wonderful things. And then if she can't help herself, stop spending as much time with her. It's that simple. It's not easy. I get how painful that would be, but you have to. And when she then calls and is like, you don't come around as much anymore, you say, we had the conversation. I was brutally honest with you, what I need to protect my self-confidence. I know that you don't mean to do it, but you're still doing it and I can't be around it. So until you can figure that out, and let me tell you all the times where you were saying this, that, or the other. And again, I'm not questioning your intentions. I know your intentions are good, because that's immediately where she's going to go. But I'm just trying to protect you. Like I say those things because they're not really negative. Why are you taking them negatively? This is your fault. You can hear words like that. And so you just need to be abundantly clear. I have a line in the sand. I love you. I have all the empathy and compassion, but I'm not going to be around that. So, and then as you distance yourself, she will change her behavior or she'll entrench. If she entrenches, you know everything you need to know about her mindset. That's toxic, whether it's your mother or not. And then if she doesn't entrench and realizes, whoa, like even if I believe to the core of my being that I'm not being negative, those things are perceived as negative. And that's one thing that you can say that'll lighten the load. Hey, maybe those things really are positive, but just so you know, I'm interpreting them as negative. They're affecting me at a visceral level as negative. So for me to keep coming around, they have to be excised from our relationship, period. Simple.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome.
For 10 more amazing rules from Dean Graziosi, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I just hear so many conversations right now about politics and whose fault is it? The last president, the future president, no matter where you live in the world. Is it in the States, is it the Republicans or the Democrats, the liberals or the conservatives?